welcome, Tracy. Welcome to the Charlene Relationship Show. This show is about relationship. This is relationship with you and your poems. Now, I know you're a poet, okay? And so just tell me a little bit about how did you all get started in poetry?
Honestly, it was a dare when I was 13 years old. I was on the bus, and this girl, she wrote a poem. It was horrible. And I told her, I said, oh, your poem is horrible. And she was like, how you gonna say my poem is bad? She was like, I bet you can't do a poem. So I went home, and I wrote a poem.
Wow.
And that was the very first poem that I ever wrote. I was 13 years old. But I started doing performance poetry in 2000. Okay. Just one day I was with a friend, and she was like, hey, let's go to this open mic they were having at Capital Community.
Wow.
And this is how long ago it was. I'm dating myself. When Capital Community College was on Woodland Street in Hartford. Okay. So a lot of people may not remember that, but I went and they were hosting a slam that night. It was the Junction Poetry, group, and they were hosting a slam. Okay. So they invited us in, and they asked if anybody wanted to slam because one of the poets dropped out. So I volunteered. Wow. My first time ever reading a poem in front of people, and I volunteered to do a slam. So I was nervous, and I was reading the paper, and it was shaking like this, and I didn't win.
But still, that's still, you know, you didn't even know do poetry, and then all of a sudden you just got up in front of the camera. Yeah, I mean, that takes a lot.
So I was nervous, but that was like the beginning. It cracked the seal for me, and I loved it ever since.
Oh, cool. That's good. Now, do you do that for a living? What do you do for a living, basically?
Well, to pay my bills, I do work in the medical field right now. I work at a GI office in Middletown, but I've always been a medical assistant since probably since I started doing poetry. But
you'd rather do poetry
all
day?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. I always tell people my 9 to 5 gets in the way of my creativity.
That's true. That's true. Most of us, too, anyway. So basically, I haven't really know anything about poetry. I'm definitely don't do that. But is there like a different style that you have in poetry?
Yes.
Explain some of that.
So you can be just a poet who writes and you share your words on paper. Okay. You know, I know a lot of poets who have never performed. So I call those written poets. Okay. Then you have spoken word artists like myself who perform in front of groups, and like it can become theatrics with the poem.
And that's nice. I like that.
Yeah. And then you have, I mean, within that genre of spoken word artists, you have performance artists, you have slam poets. Slam poets usually compete more often. Most slam poets are known.
So you like doing that?
I do, but I don't like competition because it is a lot of competition with slam. And then what I feel like is you start to write your poems based on your competition. Oh, okay, right. And I'm my biggest competition. I like to be better than the last thing I did. Right. So
now, what ideas? Now, how do you do poems? Because basically, you know, people talk about certain areas or stuff like that.
Whatever hits me, like especially like I used to be very angry when I was young. I used to get into a lot of fights and stuff. So poetry really helped me curve that anger. So so now the motivation is usually something that's made me angry. Like if I'm watching the news and something makes me angry, or something in my personal life, like, and it's not always anger anymore. A lot of times it's just passion, like whatever I'm passionate about, you know, like if like most recently Black Girl Magic is my passion. You know, like just making sure Black women are bigged up in any way possible, because I feel like we get the short end of the stick a lot.
I agree with you.
Zora Neale Hurston dubbed us the mules of the world.
So how long like it takes for you to like even write a poem? Creativity
depends on what it's about. So I have a poem called the Girdle Poem that I tell people I wrote literally in 5 minutes in the bathroom on the toilet after I had to fight with a girdle to get to the restroom. So that poem took about 5 minutes. What I like to call my signature piece took me like 3 months, because I kept rewriting and editing and working on it until I was satisfied with the final project.
Oh, that's good. So I didn't even know it could take that long and that short, so that's really good. Yeah. And do you do somebody edit this stuff for you?
No, just me. So basically, like when I was on the slam team, because I was on the slam team for 2 years, and when you're in that like writing mode, you're with a group of people because there's usually 5 people on the team.
Okay.
So you present your work, they read it, critique it, and then they edit for you. They'll tell you, oh, you should keep this line or take this line out, add this, you know. They give you suggestions, but when I'm not on the team, it's just me. And it's usually like I'll call my friends and say, hey, listen to this poem, tell me what you think.
Okay.
And like I'll ask them, like if I feel like it's missing something, I'll ask them, like if I call you, I'll say, hey, what am I missing in this? And you'll say, oh, maybe it needs a little more, like explain this part or give me more information on this, like, you know. So that's how I usually gauge it, based on how, if I read it to a friend and they can understand what I mean, then I rock with it like that.
Okay, that's good. Now, so basically when you do your poems, do you basically, you can just do it anywhere, like you can be at work, or is it just like, you know, explain like what is like would be a poem moment in your life? Well,
I could. I mean, I always tell people I could do poetry in the rain, on the corner, in a paper bag. Like I would do a poem anywhere, anytime. But normally, like a lot of people, they'll say, oh, I heard you're a poet, do a poem for me. So, you know, like I can do that, but when I'm doing shows, I like to be prepared.
Right.
Like I've done them everywhere. I've done poetry at luncheons for companies. My most recent was at an insurance company for Black History Month. I've done them, school assemblies. I mean, you name it, I've been there.
So how long you been doing poetry for?
For 17 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
17 years. You must have. You need to just do this for a living.
Yeah,
now,
that's what I'm trying to do.
So do you like travel or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I've been to California, to New York, Boston, New Jersey, Philadelphia, all up and down the East Coast.
Kind of big now.
Yeah. A lot of people know who I am. But I mean, I'm a very humble person. I still live in the same town that I grew up in. Yeah. So I'm not really, like people always say to me, like I remember being at work one day in the cafeteria and she was like, girl, you're a celebrity. I was like, no, I'm not. I said, I'm in the same cafeteria at the same job
so you
are.
get paid for this too?
Oh yeah. A lot of times I do. Right now I have a show coming up September 17th. It's called Exposure.
Oh, I gotta see that.
Yeah, the reason I called it Exposure is because as an artist, and I think especially as a poet, like a lot of people don't value your art form and they want you to come do a show or do their birthday party, but they don't want to pay you. So they're like, oh, it's great exposure. And I'm like, I've been exposed enough. Like, that's how you know me.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of shows I do get paid, but there's some I don't.
Okay, so what are you trying to communicate like with your art?
Well, me personally, I want to bring awareness, like I said, about Black women, you know, just showing how we're multifaceted. We have a lot to offer because I do think we get like pushed down in the mud a lot. You know, there's a lot of criticisms from a lot of different places. Just being a Black woman, being a Black person in the American society, you know, I want to bring awareness to our struggle, the things that we're going through. Like my biggest issue right now is like police brutality. You know, we've lost a lot of young people just to senseless. And I can't even say it's senseless violence because it's different when a cop kills somebody.
Exactly.
And then there's no remorse. At least it feels like there's no remorse. There's no recourse. There's nothing. It's just, oh, it was an accident, and we move on to the next, you know.
I agree with that. Yeah. So you want to bring awareness. That sounds good. Now, what is like the biggest obstacle that you have that's like in your way of poetry or?
It's people respecting the art form. You know, like I think it was easier a few years back when Russell Simmons was doing Def Poetry Jam, and you could see poetry in a lot of different places. You know, it was on HBO. You could hear a poet on a hip hop song. I remember when Kanye West first came out, he had a poet on his CD. You know, and a lot of people have used poets, you know, but it's just not respected. And I think that's the biggest obstacle, because I want to do this full time. I want to be a full-time poet. You know, I don't want to have to.
You would just travel places. And just book.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah, because like there's a lot of avenues to get into, but like, and I feel like it's the same in a lot of different artistic mediums. Like it's a small group of people, so you tend to see the same people over and over. Like, you know, like there's plenty of singers, but when you watch a show, you get Beyonce, Rihanna, and Katy Perry, and the Taylor Swifts. Like, where are all the other women? Like, you know,
and they just focus on
so it's the same thing with poetry. Like, there's an avenue for it, and especially on the college circuit. But you get the same poets. Like they've made a name for themselves, and I'm not knocking anybody, you know, that has done that, but it's like, just give us a little room, let us in, you know.
And
let
so
us
who
all
poets
in.
that you actually look up to, that you actually follow?
One of my favorites is Jessica Caramore. She's from the Detroit area. I'm not even sure if she lives there now, but people may remember her. She was the first poet to ever win the amateur night on Apollo.
Wow.
She won, like, I want to say like 10 weeks in a row with this poem that she has called The Black Statue of Liberty. She was the first poet that I ever saw on TV.
Wow.
And I was like, if she could do that, I could do that.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
you have that encouragement from her. And so do you have any idea where she's at now?
I don't, but she is still, she's still performing. She does a lot of like punk rock. I know she has a rock band. Most recently, when everything was happening in Ferguson, she was very vocal in that with Talib Kweli. She's very well versed in that type of hip hop with Talib and Mos Def and like what they call the dirty backpackers, I guess.
Right. So. Now, why do you think is that? Like, I do feel that the same way as well. You know how they have these only 5 people up front, and like tons of them is probably even better sometimes, you know, but it's like you in the back, you cannot be seen, you know, okay. So why do you think that is?
I think it's just people, they corner the market on whatever it is, just like in marketing, you know, like we use Tide because that's the name you see, you know, like we know there's other soaps out there, but Tide is the main one you reach for. It's like, I know this works. I've used it before.
Exactly.
I know Beyonce can sing. I know Katy Perry can sing. I've used them before. So it's kind of like, and people like them. People want to see them. But you know, you never know about the breakout or the new thing until somebody says, oh, turn the spotlight and says, oh, check this out, you know. So I don't know why it's that way, but it's like that in a lot of mediums. A lot. Like Jay-Z is not the greatest rapper. I know a lot of great rappers, you know.
Exactly, right in my backyard.
Right, really.
I know.
Trying to get on.
I know, right? So what about like the social media part of it? What do you think about that inside of your poems?
That is actually helpful because I'm able to share a poem or a video. Yeah, like if someone sees me at a show and I may not even know that they tape me and they post the video up and people say, oh, I saw you on YouTube. I'm like, oh, I didn't even put that video up. I didn't know. So that has helped because people who see me and you know, they're like, oh, she was great. I'm gonna share this with my friends. They don't realize like they're really sharing me, you know, so that type of exposure I do need.
Exactly. That's pretty good that you do that. Now I know you have some poems that, how many poems do you have out there?
Oh my God, too many to name. I recently cleaned my basement and I found a box full of like notebooks and just loose papers, all of poetry.
Like what about somebody like, oh my goodness, that's my poem. Have you ever experienced that?
That I did their poem?
No, they did your poem.
No, actually I have not, but my daughter told me that she took, because I have a book called Bare Naked. It's my first collection of poetry. It's not the first poems I wrote, but it's the first like publication that I have. And she lent it to her friend because her friend had to do a poem for English class. And so I found out that they did the poem and the teacher was like, who is this artist? Like, you know, so she's like, oh, it's my friend's mom.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's happened.
So how did you feel about that?
I was actually like flattered because I didn't even know that they had done that. And she told me she got a good grade.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, she got a good grade. There was some profanity in the poem, but I was like, that's why you should have checked with me first.
No, you have all of them. That's pretty. Now, so do you copyright all of your stuff? I mean,
oh yeah, definitely. When I first started doing poetry, it wasn't like the thing. I guess like computers. I sound like I'm old. Like there wasn't computers. There were computers, but you know, laptops weren't out like that. Exactly. So I used to mail myself a bunch of poems and then just send them to myself and not open the envelope. But now, like I just wait till I have a whole bunch, send them out to the Library of Congress, get them copywritten so that they're all. I'm good and I don't have to worry about it.
So do you actually do repeats of your poems? Like, okay.
Oh yeah. I have signature pieces that people are always like, I want to hear that poem. You know, there's poems people will say, I remember you did. And I'm like, I don't know that poem. I only did it once, like for that one show. But there's about, I would say 5 poems that are like signature pieces that people are like, I want to hear you do that one.
Now, you know, I heard you did a poem and it almost made me cry, girl. So you know you're going to have to do some poem today.
Yes.
So piece time-wise?
Well, because I've been a slam poet, you are limited to 3 minutes and 10 seconds when you're a slam poet. So most of my poems usually don't go past that. Plus, I find like anything longer than that is it's too long. People aren't interested anymore.
Exactly. That's how
yeah,
I
you
feel
lose
too.
attention.
Yeah, it's like reading a book. I'm like, okay, after the first chapter, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
like
know what the
put
book
it
is
down,
about.
go do something else. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would like for you to actually do some of your pieces today.
Definitely.
You know, so what is the name of what you're going to do?
Okay, so the first one, this is my signature piece. It's called Mind Evolution, which is my stage name. And this is the poem that took me 3 months to write.
Oh, wow.
Mind evolution, the element that reasons, the totality of conscious and unconscious mental process and activities, intellectual power or ability, a state of awareness or remembrance, a gradual process in which something changes into a different and usually better form. Like a quiet storm that builds, I sneak up behind you with words that heal. If words could kill, I'd be a mass murderer. They'll be saying things like, yo, you never heard of her? She'll take your head off and shove spoken word down your throat. Quickly put you back together before you croak. No joke. This sister wrote a rhyme that brought back a lifeline on the dead guy stuck in a bind between a rock and a hard place. Selling rock on the paper chase. Got the feds on his case because he liked money at a fast pace. Running so hard but still losing the race. Didn't have a father to embrace, so he smokes and drinks to try and erase displaced emotions of abandonment. Then he heard this poem and noted my lyrical content was created for empowerment with a dash of entertainment. This is why I can't contain this. My mind is in a constant state of involvement. I'm involved with everything while at this mic standing still because I took the time to read, didn't need to swallow a red or blue pill. I am a prophecy because when I was 12 years old, this moment is what the prophets would see. 12 years from now, they'll be talking about me in the past and future tense because I'm an ancestor and your next descendant, a relative that's always relevant, and you can't relate unless you've been through it. I don't talk about it, I just do it. Some said I couldn't, but I stand here in proof of it. Like Mira said, I am not just a poet. I'm a woman, full-figured and fully aware. My hair signifies strength, just like my words. I heard I'm ugly by the world's beauty code, but a knockout by my own. Well-loved and well-grown, I'm a cutie that's juicy with thick thighs. I make rivers run dry. Wipe tears of friends who cry. Only deal with truth, so I never lie. I spit rhymes. I'm an actress that can rock movie lines and red carpets with no panty lines. I'm building legacies so mind evolution never dies. Teach my children to do better so we always rise. Make you believe I heal boo-boos with one kiss. Hold the spot on your top 5 list. Carry worlds on my shoulders so I'm blessed with hips. I'm a teacher, a chef, and a maid that made standards rise. I set bars high while I get you high off information. My creation was not an accident. I was meant to stimulate minds and still breath. To recover from my loving takes 12 steps. I say 12 steps ahead because life is like chess and this queen is looking for a mate to check. And I'm not afraid to rock the angry black woman banner across my chest because I was sent here to express where my sisters are coming from. We are diamonds and butterflies, but that image we have run from. And I stand here singing now for my brothers who've been unsung. Abdul, Daryl, Jason, Danny, Troy, Melaquan, Antoine, Dana, and Donnie, and for all the men standing far and near beside me who handle responsibilities and understand child support is all things and much more than monetary. I say things clearly so y'all can hear me. Life is merely decisions made during a survival test. With that conclusion, I've just introduced you to Mind Evolution. That's a longer poem.
That was an awesome poem.
Thank you.
That was just so great. Now, does it seem like it's something that, does it run in your family? Is it something that?
No, honestly, not poetry, but I have a lot of talented people in my family.
Okay.
When I think about it, like my dad plays the piano and the drums, my aunts sing, my uncles play the piano and drums. Like we have a lot of musical people.
Okay,
Yeah.
and do you have kids?
Yes.
Okay.
My kids, my son is actually a rapper.
Oh.
And his name, if you want to look him up, he's on SoundCloud. His name is Blizzy.
Okay.
He's phenomenal. And not just because he's my son. He really is good. My daughter is actually going to be going to school on the 2nd for, she's going to be a pastry chef. She's going to Johnson & Wales.
Okay.
My little daughter, she wants to be a nail tech and own her own salon.
Okay.
And then my son, my baby, he is an artist and has been since he was 4 years old. He's 11 now.
So you have 4?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, that's
okay.
it, and a dog.
Wow, you have time to do all these poems and then basically also have kids and have a family. That's
But I bring
interesting.
them with me, and
Okay.
they help, they work. Like my daughter, she was the intern for at least 12 years. She helps set up tables and sell books. And when we do the play, they're moving equipment. And so they're very much involved.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So basically they don't do poems, but they basically do a lot of other talent, which is still good. You know, so everything is pretty good. So where do you want to see yourself, just say like 5-10 years from now?
5-10 years from now, I would love to be touring constantly, doing poetry every day. Wake up in the morning and do poetry somewhere. Whether it's teaching poetry to children, performing poetry, I just would love to be in a creative space.
Have you ever gone to any like classes for poetry?
No, I never.
That's amazing.
The
that's the
crazy
amazing
thing.
part about it. I'm like, you haven't even been to a class, and you.
No, I was gonna go back to school to get my master's in fine arts. And a friend of mine, she was like, "Well, why do you need to go back to school to do what you're doing?" And I was like, I don't know, for like validation. And she was like, "You're doing it, just do it." So I mean, I've produced and directed several plays. One, which is the Thick Chronicles, a body image story, is my baby. We created that because I was like, one day I was doing the vagina monologues, and I was like, I don't really have issues with my vagina. Like, this would, if we did a play about my stomach, then I could really, you know. So that's how I like came up with the idea to do the Thick Chronicles, and it was basically just a story, like you send in your story, and we perform how you love or don't love your body.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Okay. That sounds good. Now you have like a little short poem you want to end with? You just want to basically something, a 2-minute.
2-minute poem. Let's see.
Poem.
Let me see. I'm addicted to poetry, but in love with music. God gave me a talent, and I'm trying to use it. Doubters and haters have tried to stop my shine. I'm the brightest star in the sky, and the world is mine. All I need is a mic, piece of paper, and a pen. 2 ears really, really, really ready to listen. I'ma bless you with a message through this poetic mission. The decision to rhyme was not mine, but God's. I'm defeating naysayers and defying the odds, and I'm finding it odd. My own people try to block me. I'll be rhyming for my life. Nothing but death can ever stop me.
That's nice. I just want to say great for being on the show, because basically you are talented, and you know you have a lot to give. And like you said, if you want to, you can do it, you know. Just like me, you know, I'm just getting into the game too, just trying to promote stuff and do things that make you happy, you know. So that'd be great. So like, and you say you have stuff coming up, right? So you want to give a minute to let them know?
Certainly. So September 17th, 7 p.m. at the CT Improv Theater, which is downtown Hartford, 15 Asylum Avenue. I will be performing my one-woman show, Exposure, on the same day, same time. You can also pick up my new book, Exposure, which is a collection of poetry, as well as the old book, Bare Naked. And I'm available on Facebook, Mind Evolution, poetmindevolution.com, or excuse me, poetmindevolution at Yahoo. My .com is gone. But I'm around. I'm always selling books out of my trunk.
Oh, wow. That's good to know. So next time, hopefully, we may even have you on the show to even promote your book as well.
Oh, definitely. I'll definitely come back.
Good. But thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. So thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
Okay.